All right, what's up, everybody? Andrew Bone here, the Bama Insider YouTube channel, giving you guys an update on where things stand with recruiting for the Crimson Tide. You know, a few days before National Signing Day, well, at least for the early signing period. Things are pretty crazy right now, and everyone wants to have a prediction or give. Everybody wants people to like me to give a prediction on some of these kids and be 100% right. And right now, there's a few of these kids that we just don't know. We don't know what's going to happen between now and Wednesday on some of these guys, especially the guys that really haven't tipped their hat in any direction in any of their interviews recently. So we're just trying to kind of decipher what's going to happen. We're talking to a lot of different sources on each side. I mean, from my perspective, we don't just talk to people that cover, recruiting for Alabama or contacts in Tuscaloosa or anything like that. We try to, talk to all sides of the coin. So, we've got people that, let's say Nakobe Dean. We're talking to people that cover Ole Miss, people that have contacts at Ole Miss. We're talking to people on the Georgia side of things, so the LSU side of things. We're talking to a lot of different sources here to try to get the best information possible to give a any sort of prediction that we can give that might be the most accurate. It may not be accurate, but in our opinion, it might be the most accurate heading into signing day. So we'll backtrace just a little bit. Going to talk just a couple of minutes about Kayvon Thibodeaux, his decision on Wednesday, or excuse me, on Saturday for Oregon. Then we're going to hit on these last few guys that Alabama's still going after that I think Alabama's got a chance to sign between now and Wednesday. All right, so Kayvon Thibodeaux announced his commitment to Oregon on Saturday. Not really a big surprise. We did predict Alabama, but we've been saying the last week on BamaInsider.com. We even said this the morning of his announcement that it was really close between Alabama and Oregon. Now we started hearing some things. I guess I would say late Friday night, early Saturday morning, from the Florida State side of things that Florida State was in it. That Florida State felt like it was down to Alabama and Florida State, which kind of caught us off guard a little bit. I didn't really believe that. I thought it was Alabama, Oregon the whole time, which we clearly noted on Bama Insider. And I think Alabama had the edge, and then I think Oregon just was able to retake the lead for him, and they were able to get him kind of made him believe he's going to be the big man on campus. Alabama obviously has a lot of those type of guys, and I think Oregon really kind of sold him on the fact that he could be, the main guy at Oregon on the defensive side of the ball. But obviously a big recruiting win for Mario Cristobal. Alabama's still trying to get an edge rusher in this class. They've got one in Kevin Harris, who was in Tuscaloosa this past weekend. It's also a guy that's going to be enrolling early, so that's huge for Alabama. But they're still going after, pretty much just one guy, and that's Chris Bogle, the edge rusher out of Fort Lauderdale. Alabama's been able to recruit that area extremely well through the last few years, and we'll see what happens. He took an official visit to Miami this past weekend. He's going to announce on January the 5th. He's not an early enrollee, so not going to be signing until February. So we'll see where things stand with Alabama. Maybe after this week. I think that he could certainly be a guy that Alabama's going to continue to pursue. And people have been asking me, is Chris Bogle, was he a backup plan if Thibodeaux went elsewhere? No, he wasn't. He was a guy that Alabama's been heavily recruiting for a very long time. We've been talking about him pretty much since June on BamaInsider.com, saying how he was a big-time target for the Crimson Tide. And there's a lot of times where Alabama's trying to meet their needs, but they're also trying to get elite players. And, at the edge rusher position, they really wanted to get one more edge rusher, but they're also wanting elite players. So if Kayvon Thibodeaux would have committed, there's a good chance they still would have taken Chris Bogle. So now Chris Bogle becomes a very important, target, even more so after missing on Thibodeaux the other day. But, we'll talk more about him later on. I want to talk more about the kids who are going to be announcing this week, and who Alabama's got a chance to possibly sign on Wednesday. All right. let's get the first one out of the bag. It's going to be Trey Sanders. Trey Sanders, 5-star running back, number one running back in the country out of IMG Academy. We've talked about him, for a very long time. He committed to Alabama, when he was a sophomore, and then decommitted. And we all thought he was heading back to Alabama. And then he took that official visit to Georgia last weekend, and it just seemed like Georgia just completely took the wind out of Alabama's sails. That they just completely took the lead, that it was a done deal, and there was no chance for Alabama to even be in the race anymore. Now, things have kind of leveled off a little bit, and I'm not saying that it's a dead even race or anything like that. I think that Georgia is in the lead. As of right now, if I were to make a prediction, and I haven't actually locked in my final prediction on Rivals yet for Trey Sanders, but as of this evening, so Monday evening, I'm leaning towards Georgia, and I've been leaning towards Georgia since last week. Ever since we started hearing all the different discussions about Georgia taking the lead and stuff like that. I don't know exactly what has happened, what transpired between Alabama and Sanders, but it just seems like Georgia has become the overall leader for him. Would it shock me if he announced for Alabama come Wednesday? No. I think just because he's been an Alabama lean for such a long time that there's still a chance there. So I just wouldn't rule it out completely just yet. But Georgia certainly feeling pretty confident on where things stand with Trey Sanders as of today. So what happens if Trey Sanders does go to Georgia? Well, I mentioned this on BamaInsider.com a few times, and I talked about it earlier today. I'd keep an eye on DJ Williams. DJ Williams, running back out of Sebring High School in Florida, had a monster senior season. And a lot of people are starting to say, now that they're starting to watch his film, starting to say, well, this doesn't seem like a backup option. This seems like a number one option from the get-go. And I think he is. I mean, a lot of schools really want this guy. But the problem is, I think schools like Georgia and Alabama, if they had another spot, to take, let's say, 2 running backs, he would be, Georgia or Alabama would have gladly already accepted his commitment. But they had pretty much, both those schools pretty much have it down to one spot remaining for the running back position, and they're having to wait to see what Trey Sanders does. But this is a great kid, DJ Williams. If Georgia misses out on Trey Sanders, there's a good chance DJ Williams commits to Georgia. So if Alabama misses out on him, out on Trey Sanders, they've got a chance to sign DJ Williams as well. He'll be making a decision on Wednesday after Trey Sanders. So we'll all know, pretty quickly what those two guys are going to do. So that's my spill on Trey Sanders and what may happen at the running back position. Evan Neal, Trey Sanders' teammate. A lot of people thought possibly a package deal that those two guys were going to end up going to the same school. We thought pretty much early on that could be the case, not in terms of a package deal, but in terms of both those guys going to the same school. Now, he did visit Georgia last weekend or 2 weekends ago, and I think Georgia really made it quite interesting in the last week. I think that they've certainly made it a lot closer than what we thought it was going to be. But at the end, I think Evan Neal ends up at Alabama. Pretty confident on that pick. I wouldn't say I'm confident. I'd say I'm confident on Sanders I guess I would want to say I'm more confident on Neal to Alabama than Sanders to Georgia. A little bit more confidence on Neal as of right now. So as of right now, really like Alabama's chances of landing Evan Neal, big time offensive tackle. One of the top offensive linemen in the country. I think he's rated maybe number 2 overall in the country at the tackle position behind Darnell Wright, number 11 overall player in the Rivals 100. So would be a big pickup for the Crimson Tide, and he's also an early enrollee. So that'd be huge getting him on campus early on. Nakobe Dean. I'll tell you what, I've heard so many stories on Nakobe Dean in the last 3 days in terms of which school's leading, and this guy's predicting him to Alabama, this guy's predicting him to Georgia, this guy's predicting him to Ole Miss. It's hard to tell what to believe, and I just don't have a sense that anybody knows what he's going to do, just based on just so many wild predictions on his college choice. I talked to some guys over the weekend who really felt like it was Ole Miss or Georgia, and now we're here on Monday, and you keep hearing Alabama's still in the mix. Alabama's still in the mix. So obviously, we don't like to beat around the bush. We want to get straight to the point. We want to tell you guys, yeah, this guy's leaning towards Alabama, but these last few guys have just been extremely tough to figure out what they're going to do. I wish I could say, like I said, I wish I could tell you it's going to be Alabama or Georgia. It's going to be Georgia or Ole Miss. It's going to be Georgia. It's going to be Ole Miss or Alabama. But it's hard to say. And I do think that Alabama's still in it. People that I talk to on all the different sides, Georgia side, Ole Miss side, Alabama side, everybody feels like it's really close, that it could go either way. There were some things earlier in last week and leading up until this week that led us to believe that it was Georgia or Ole Miss, but could easily be Alabama. Some people keep messaging me saying, "Oh, well, this analyst or that expert or this guy, they're now predicting Nakobe Dean to Alabama." Okay, well, what does that mean? It's just a prediction. It's not like they're saying it's a done deal. And then I'm asking, okay, well, they seem pretty confident. Well, no, they don't seem confident. It just says low confidence that this kid's going to go to Alabama. Well, low, what does that mean? I could say I'm going to have a steak tonight for dinner. What's the chance of that happening? Pretty low. I could end up, having, chicken instead. Give me a break there, guys. It's tough sometimes to figure out exactly what these kids are going to do. Everybody's making their own predictions. I don't think it's a prediction based on serious intel. I just think that it's a gut feeling on sometimes it is. I mean, and I say sometimes, a lot of times it is. A lot of times it's intel. A lot of times we know where these kids are going. We're making these predictions. We're looking smart, and everybody's calling us experts at this thing. But we actually do know a lot of the times before these kids make predictions. I remember 2 years ago, I had this crazy thing on Bama Insider. It was like maybe 19 out of 21 or 19 out of 20 predictions that I nailed. Well, guys, I knew 17 of them before it happened. I mean, we all know, but a lot of these kids, some of these kids, you don't know. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, people don't know about Nakobe Dean. People don't know for sure about Trey Sanders. These are just guesses. These are just straight up guesses that people are, going off of based on, what they know, what they're hearing from various sources. And, trust me, I've heard 30 different things from 30 different sources on these kids over the last few days. I'm reaching out to everybody that we know just to give a, as accurate of a prediction as we can. And it's tough, guys. It really is. But we're keeping it straight with everybody on Bama Insider. So you guys, you guys stick to that. And anything changes on any of these kids, we let you know as soon as it happens. All right. So we talked about Trey Sanders, talked about Nakobe Dean. We talked about Evan Neal. We talked about DJ Williams. Jordan Battle, the 4-star safety out of Fort Lauderdale. We all were thinking that a commitment was imminent last week. It seemed like last Friday was the day. He went to he had an in-home visit with Alabama on Wednesday. Then he had an in-home visit on Thursday night with Ohio State head coach Ryan Day. And then all of a sudden, all these predictions started coming in, battle to Alabama. And I was even hearing from our Ohio State guys that, it was going to happen, that Alabama was going to land him. Well, hadn't happened yet, guys. I mean, even if he may have told Alabama that it was coming, nothing has publicly come out yet. So everybody's waiting to see what happens. Is he waiting until Wednesday? Is he going to make some crazy announcement today or tomorrow? We just don't know. I think he's going to wait. I think he's going to wait until Wednesday and then announce a decision. I like Alabama's chances still. I still think he's going to end up in Alabama's recruiting class. But, very interesting that, it just hasn't happened yet. So that's something that we're going to keep an eye on. But as of right now, still penciling in Jordan Battle in Alabama's recruiting class. So what does that mean now? So you got a few guys that are still making decisions this week that have Alabama on their short list. Ty Robinson, the 4-star defensive lineman out of Arizona. I think he's going to end up going to Nebraska. I think Alabama recruited him well, but he only took one trip to Tuscaloosa. Got a lot of family in Lincoln, so I think he's going to end up at Nebraska. Keon Zipper, 4-star tight end. I keep telling our subscribers, because I think people are reporting elsewhere that he's no longer a take for Alabama, or not even on Alabama's radar anymore because Mike Locksley ended up leaving. Well, that's just not the case. It's not true at all. He's been recruited heavily by Alabama even since Mike Locksley left. Nick Saban saw him 2 weeks ago. Jeff Banks went and saw him last week, and Alabama is still in very very good communication with him. I just don't think he's going to end up at Alabama. I think he ends up at as of right now, I think he ends up at Florida. And I said last week that we were here in Miami a lot with him, but now after he took that official visit to Miami this weekend, now starting to hear more Florida for him. So I think he ends up staying in Florida. One of the other main guys we're watching this week is Alabama commitment Justin Ebojebe, 4-star defensive lineman from Georgia. Now, I think what most Alabama fans are thinking, the ones that follow recruiting, pretty heavily, they're probably thinking, oh, well, he sent a tweet out on Thursday saying that he knows where he's going to school. His recruitment's done. He doesn't have to take any more visits. And then he showed up in Tuscaloosa for an official visit this past weekend. So that must mean things are completely done. I think things are done, but I also want to wait and see what happens with him on Wednesday. I think he's going to be signing at 10:30 a.m. Central Time. And I think Alabama will feel comfortable when he signs. That's just what I've been told. They're not going to feel comfortable until he signs that letter of intent, because he certainly has kept them on their heels a little bit throughout the recruiting process. And I just think that some of these other schools, especially Tennessee, because Tennessee's recruited him extremely well. I don't think he really would flip to any other schools. I don't think he's going to end up going to Miami or Florida. But I'd still just wait and not celebrate just yet. Just wait till he signs on Wednesday, and then you can go from there. One of the other guys that we've talked about as a possible will he sign, will he wait until February, is Dax Hill, the 5-star safety, that flipped from Michigan a few weeks ago to Alabama. As of right now, still plans on waiting until February to sign. Is that bad for Alabama? I always say, it's always better if they go ahead and sign, because you don't have to worry about it for the next month. But that's what he wants to do. Alabama's fine with it, and they'll continue to recruit him. And Nick Saban will go out and see him in January, continue to recruit him, and they'll hope he will sign that letter of intent come February. All right, so that is kind of an update on all these kids, and now I'll recap it real quick. Trey Sanders, like I said, I think as of right now it's Georgia. Could he shock me and go to Alabama? Yes. I don't think he's going to shock anyone and go to Texas or Florida. Even though there's still some Florida talk in there, I think it's Alabama or Georgia, with Georgia in the lead. Evan Neal, I think he's going to Alabama. Nakobe Dean, 3-team race there, guys. Anybody can throw a school out there, and somebody's going to be right. I mean, it's up to anybody. I've been hearing it's Georgia or Ole Miss, since about Thursday of last week. But would it surprise me at all if it's Alabama? No. DJ Williams, like I said, if Trey Sanders ends up going to Georgia, I think he's got a good chance to be in Alabama's class. Jordan Battle, a 4-star safety, still leaning Alabama here. Ty Robinson, Nebraska. Keon Zipper, as I mentioned, I think he ends up at Florida. Justin Ebojebe, I think he ends up going to or sticking with his commitment to Alabama. So, all right, I'm going to answer a few questions. We've got a lot of fans in here this evening, so thank you guys for joining. Let me see here. Broke your heart with a KT prediction. I know. I've got a lot of grief over that one, guys. I think a lot of people were predicting KT to Alabama, and I think at one point last week he was going to Alabama. It just kind of changed at the last minute, guys. All right. Dean was supposed to let the coaching staffs know today. Um, yeah, I mean, I'd heard that he was hoping to let them know on Friday or Saturday. Don't think that happened, but yeah, I think all the staffs were going to feel a little bit more confident today, one way or the other on him. All right. Just scrolling through the questions, guys. Got a lot of them coming in, so I apologize. I know you guys see them too, so just trying to look at it. A lot of confidence coming out of Auburn on getting DJ Williams. Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to hear that as well, but we'll just have to wait and see. We'll know probably. I mean, we really aren't going to know probably until maybe tomorrow or even on Wednesday. I mean, a lot depends on when Trey Sanders gives that final answer to these coaching staffs. Come on, Bone Dean to Bama. Yeah, I'm not there yet, guys. I mean, I know some other Alabama reporters are predicting it. I'm not there. I just think it's too much of a wild card right now. Let's see. A lot of comments. A lot of comments. A lot of comments. All right. All right. What about Noah Pola Gates? So Noah Pola Gates has decided to hold off until making a decision until January the 19th, which was always the plan. But he also thought about going ahead and signing next week. He's going to wait, so he'll wait until next week to make that decision. I mean, excuse me, he'll not make a decision this week and wait until next month to make a decision. Let's see. Are we holding on to the number one class? You know, I, Alabama's going to have to hold on to Dax Hill. Um, they're going to have to get Evan Neal. They're going to have to, probably get Ishmael Sopsher next month, and we'll see what happens with Henry Tola as well. And this is all if they don't get Nakobe Dean, if they don't get Trey Sanders, they still got a good chance to sign the number one class. A lot's going to depend on what happens with Georgia. Will Georgia get Trey Sanders? Will Georgia get Nakobe Dean? Who else will they possibly get between now and signing day? Tyreek Stevenson, that's another guy that they feel like they've got a good chance to get. Will Jadon Hazelwood end up committing back to Georgia? It's a race to the finish line. It's going to be Alabama or Georgia for that top overall class. What about Chris Bogle? Mentioned Chris Bogle earlier in the show. Probably at the very beginning when we talked about Kayvon Thibodeaux. I think that Alabama's definitely in the race here. He's been a big target for Alabama for a long time, not just because Kayvon went to Oregon. He's been a big target for them for a while. He's going to announce on January the 5th. He won't be signing this week, so we'll try to figure out what he's going to do, try to get a better understanding of how he's feeling, and make a prediction on him a little bit down the road. But definitely think Alabama's at least in the top three, top two for Chris Bogle. What about the tackle from West Virginia, Darnell Wright? Five-star Darnell Wright. He actually took an unofficial visit to Tennessee this past weekend, which I thought was kind of interesting. Been in Tennessee a few times already this year. I think with Alabama pushing so hard for Evan Neal that it may have affected Darnell a little bit. He wants to wait until next month to sign, or excuse me, wait until February to sign. He's going to take his official visits in January, but I know Tennessee's been pushing him to try to go ahead and sign this week. Don't think that's going to happen, but I think Alabama's still got a chance with him. But we'll just have to wait and see what happens with Evan Neal, and if that affects one side or the other. If it affects Alabama recruiting Darnell Wright moving forward, or if it affects Darnell Wright in terms of looking at Alabama's overall offensive line class. What about Tua's younger brother, Leah? He's good. I mean, he's signing with Alabama on Wednesday. Sure, there were some schools that were hoping to flip him, LSU, Tennessee, but he's solid with Alabama. Where is Solomon going? The transfer from Michigan. I do not know because that news just broke here today. So you know, who knows what's going to happen. Let's see, guys. Let's see. I'm just going to answer just a couple more questions. I'm going to get out of here. Don't want to keep you guys too long. What about Henry Tolatola? A couple more questions I'm going to take. Henry Tolatola and Marcus Banks. Henry Tolatola, as I mentioned, will announce on January the 19th. Still really like Alabama's chances there. I think Alabama ends up getting him. Regardless of what happens with Nakobe Dean on Wednesday, Marcus Banks, the 4-star DB, will be announcing on January the 5th. Won't sign this week. I think he's going to end up at Texas A&M. With Alabama being able to steal Jeffrey Carter away from A&M makes Marcus Banks, such an important target for them. So we'll watch that. We'll also watch and see what happens with Jordan Battle this week. If Jordan Battle, as we expect, flips to Alabama, maybe the end of Alabama's DB class. But as many know, Alabama still has a few DBs that won't sign, this upcoming week, with Dax Hill still visiting, not visiting, but at least, waiting. And then Christian Williams, 4-star DB from Daphne, taking some visits next month. So you never know what may happen in the DB class. I think it's almost like musical chairs. We'll have to wait and see what happens when the music stops. Please tell me a kicker is on deck. Yeah, Alabama does have the number one kicker in the country, Will Ricard, out of Hoover High School. Big get for Alabama. So yeah, he's signing early. I think they got a good one coming in. Do we have a chance with Ishmael Sopsher? Yeah, I mean, I still think Alabama's in the driver's seat there. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. He took an official visit to Oregon this past weekend. I can't see him going to Oregon. At the end, it's going to be Alabama, LSU, A&M. He's been saying he wants his brother to play with him in college. His brother hasn't been playing in junior college. His brother, I don't think, has been in junior college this year. I think he's been out for a little bit. So we'll be interested to see what ends up happening there, because I don't know if anybody's going to be able to sign him. Is Pickens staying with Auburn, the barn? Yeah, probably so. I don't. He's not going to Alabama. I know. Some other schools like LSU, Florida State, still recruiting him, but I don't see him going to Alabama. What about Nakobe Dean? Been talking about him. Mentioned him already twice on here. 3-team race: Alabama, Ole Miss, and Georgia. Anybody can make a prediction here. I mean, nobody knows on this kid. And, I've talked to so many different sources, and nobody seems to know. I mean, it's kind of anyone's guess as to what he's going to do. Anyone who's making a prediction for Alabama is just making a prediction. Anybody who's making a prediction for Georgia, just making a prediction. Same for Ole Miss. And so we're all going to know come Wednesday. I'll make a final prediction on Bama Insider tomorrow night, but I'll have to go ahead and take it. It's not going to be a confident one way or the other. All right, guys. I think that's going to be it for the evening. Any commit we can flip from Georgia. Not right now. No, I mean, I think all those guys, the guys at Alabama recruited heavily. Nolan Smith, most notable guy. He's pretty locked in with Georgia. Nathan Pickering. Glad somebody asked about him. I talked to Nathan Pickering a few days ago, and he did say that if any school had the best chance to flip him, it would be Alabama. He's going to visit Alabama on January the 11th. He's not signing early. Still committed to Mississippi State. Going to be tough. I mean, going to be real tough to flip him from Mississippi State, but he's got a real good relationship with Tosh Poy. So got to keep an eye on Pickering, because I definitely think that Alabama's still very much in the mix with him. Have I ever been this confused with three like this so close? Probably not. I mean, I've been doing this for 16 years, and I know a lot of people are making, giving predictions, and they want me to make a prediction on these kids, but it's tough. I mean, especially with Nakobe Dean and Trey Sanders. I mean, it's really tough to predict. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm leaning towards Georgia, and I've been leaning towards Georgia for the last week for Trey Sanders. It just seems that way. Even though I think Alabama's still in it. It could go either way still, but when Nakobe Dean, I mean, everyone that I've talked to just has no idea, no clue what he's going to do, and so it's going to be interesting to see what he ends up doing come Wednesday. I mean, for a while I've always thought, and I said this months ago, that I thought it was Alabama or Georgia. I thought it was going to be that way for forever, and then all of a sudden, just in the last 5-6 days, pretty much ever since last Tuesday, when Ole Miss spent the entire day with Nakobe Dean and his family, except for like basically an hour that Nick Saban and Pete Golding were there. It just completely kind of changed things. It put Ole Miss into competition, into the into the talk for him. So yeah, I mean, this is about as confusing as a kid as I've ever covered. So yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with him on Wednesday. All right, guys. I think that's going to be it for the evening. Didn't want to go past 30 minutes, but we're past 30 minutes. You guys be sure to stay tuned to BamaInsider.com. If you got another question, come on the board tonight. I mean, sign up for a free trial. You can come on there, ask me some questions. I'll give it to you straight. We don't try to pump sunshine. We're not going to tell you, oh yeah, Alabama's getting every kid. We're going to tell you exactly where things are with each prospect, and if Alabama's got a good chance to sign them or not. So come on there, check us out. BamaInsider.com. Please follow me on my Twitter handle at Andrew J. Bone. Somebody asked about another stream. I'm going to try to get on tomorrow night, but it's going to be quick because most of our insider stuff for tomorrow is going to be on Bama Insider. And so I definitely encourage you to get on there and check that out. So we'll get on tomorrow night, maybe throw in a few little nuggets here and there. But most of our stuff is going to be on Bama Insider tomorrow night. So check us out. Go to BamaInsider.com. Click on the $99 team gear, or the 7-day free trial. Check us out, and I'll see you guys over there. Thanks a lot. Bye.